take a look for that. Next up in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center, as we do most Fridays when his better half doesn't come in, Frank Carini from EcoRI around the corner.
I was the better half, but that's fine.
I know, speaking of hot or not, there's a constant debate amongst...
There's no debate among people that know both of us. I am not the better half.
Well, I had a lovely conversation with Joanna last week about stuff going on in the EcoRI world, and this week, no shortage. And if you were here talking with me, or you were here hearing Russ and I talk earlier, a little overlap is the politics and environmental world, and one of the ones that your colleague Tim Faulkner had pointed out, just what happened with the budget, and again, these scoops from energy efficiency funds and the Narragansett Bay Commission. The environmental community doesn't sound too happy with the budget right now.
No, but I mean, it's typical, the General Assembly, not just this current one, but going back decades, just environmental stuff it's at the bottom, we've talked about it, it's at the bottom of the priority list. So the fact that they're taking money from the Narragansett Bay Commission and taking money from renewable energy projects and putting it in the general fund doesn't surprise. They do that all the time. They take money from water, it also go to schools and put it somewhere else. So it's depressing that environment always gets rated, or at least it's low priority. It's kind of disheartening, but it's not surprising.
You've seen it all, and as you said, history does repeat itself.
Yeah,
but
constantly.
We were talking with you about the health of the bay being sort of the best it's been, opening up areas to shell fishing that hadn't been opened in 70 years. We had Vin Mazzalella from the Narragansett Bay Commission coming in. I mean, so many strides being made with cleaning up, with environmental efforts. I mean, does this kind of stymie them? I mean, it seemed like there's a lot of momentum, and then they're like, taking some money out.
Well, I don't know if that'll stymie that. It's just going to put more pressure on NBC ratepayers, for one, because they're taking money, that's for infrastructure. Yeah, I mean, if you can't, the bay is cleaner.
You gotta pay for it somehow,
exactly.
folks.
Exactly. So it's all we're doing is, whatever that saying is, but basically,
Paul.
Peter, Paul, whatever. We're taking money now, short-term fix, and forget about the long-term. We never think about that when we do anything. And not just this General Assembly or this governor either, just for decades. Yeah, and it's not like, the bay is cleaner now, the environment, at least the water resources, the rivers are getting cleaner, but that was done because a lot of work was put into it. And if you just let it lapse or you don't, there's going to be constant pressures, whether it's pharmaceuticals, plastics, whatever. There's constant pressures. Yeah, we don't have the industrial, because we don't have industrial manufacturing, jewelry manufacturing. That's one reason why it's better, because we don't have that anymore. But we have all these other stresses that we have to deal with. We just can't leave them for 20, 30 years down the pike and let somebody deal with those like the previous ones with us.
Well, as we pointed it out, I mean, Save the Bay put out releases, just a lot of talk this week by folks who are bringing these issues to attention. And as you pointed out, made the cuts in the budget, but someone's going to have to pick up the slack somewhere. Yeah,
and exactly. And nobody in the House, from Tim's story reporting, they never even brought it up. Nobody tried to get these cuts back, whether it was the, Governor Raimondo wants to get, which I agree with, 2 more people at the Office of Water Resources for enforcement, just everything, just to make, they didn't bring that up, nothing. Just cut. And nobody even says, wait a minute, what about this? Or raises their hand, or at least questions it or brings it to the fore to debate.
Well, I'll tell you, I do know that House Minority Leader Patricia Morgan brought it up for the fiscal standpoint of it, it's just not good fiscal management to kind of depend on these one-offs, saying, well, if we need money, we'll just grab it here. So from a fiscal standpoint, she pointed out, and she called them scoops too. Stop scooping. That's not the way to balance a budget.
Yeah, whether it's environment or some other part.
Yes.
I agree.
So she had pointed it out. I do want to say that because she was in here when she was talking about that.
Her and I don't agree on many things, but I agree with her on that.
Yes, politics make strange bedfellows. So that was one of the good reads on EcoRI.org this week. If you want the environmental breakdown of the House budget, take a look at that. Tim Faulkner had penned that piece. So I'm going through here, lots of good stuff on EcoRI this week, and I want to make sure that I cover it all. Invenergy, so much going on with Invenergy this week. Let's talk about the town council's usage of that tax agreement it had with Invenergy to then turn around and try to counter them and all that Invenergy's doing to try to have that deep pockets with their PR effort to say, we need the jobs, we need the energy. And Barville says, well, we'll take your money and we're going to have our own campaign.
I think it was brilliantly played, and I know they took a heat for a while, but if they didn't have if they didn't do a tax, they had to do a tax deal, whether you're going to get it or not. You have to assume you're going to get it and at least have a tax deal in place.
Protect
and get
yourself.
That money. Yeah, protect yourself. You don't want to get run over. Invenergy was trying to run over the town like any of these big corporations do to any town or municipality. So Burville didn't allow it to happen. I think it's brilliant. If they took that money and used it against Invenergy, if you will, by funding some of their, anti-power plant. But what do you think these corporations do to these, especially small municipalities? They steamroll them. So good for Burville.
It's a small municipality. And I asked, I'm not at these meetings. Do you think it kind of chills relations a little? Do you think they'll sit back down at the table for future negotiations? Or
Well, it all depends what they... it's out of their hands now. It's basically in the Energy Facility Siting Board. So yeah, I think they will if it needs that invented. I don't think either side's that dumb that they're going to be like such children that they're going to burn. But who knows? But I would think they would go back to the table if it needed to be. But it's kind of outside both their hands right now.
And then we did see this week too, one of the other developments. Invenergy had tried to stop that lawsuit against moving forward with having Johnson sell their water to Barville. Do you think that is gonna? Do you think that there's any potential that the courts will say, no, Johnson, you can't sell the water?
I don't know about that. I think the judge who made the ruling, I forgot his name, but his point was we got to answer the question: is any municipality that buys water from Providence Water from the Situate Reservoir, can they resell it? And that question's
You
kind of...
got to answer that question
Exactly,
first
I
before
think
you
that's-
stop the effort to answer the question. It
Right.
was, it seemed like they were trying to nip it in the bud, and the court said, no, you can't nip it. We actually have to go through this process
Right.
and see if this is actually legal or not. But I think that, I'll tell you, the anti-power plant folks did see it as a win.
Oh, I would definitely a win in that case because the lawsuit's going forward, so it's a win on that case. But I don't think that the judge even said that CLF, the Conservation Law Foundation, kind of overstepped their bounds. But they overstepped their bounds because this question lingers. So it is a win for the people that don't want the power plant.
So two big kind of ticket items dealing with Invenergy this week, again, written about on EcoRI as well. There was an interesting article there are a couple more here.
You sound surprised.
No, I love reading all the EcoRI stuff. No, I'll tell you why I'm surprised. Because I didn't realize that the Northeast Canyons and Seamounts were actually the first marine national monument off the Atlantic coast and under threat for protection under the Trump administration. So right. I didn't realize that, folks might not know, but I didn't realize they had that designation as a national monument to get protection.
Yeah, it's only about a year old, and the Obama administration, so now Trump wants to roll back anything Obama did, even if he doesn't know what it is.
What does it mean for underwater areas to have a monument designation?
It's kind of like it's an underwater Yosemite or Yellowstone. It's kind of, you can't do that. I mean, it's a little different. It's not that accessible to many people, but you can't.
But you can't go explore for oil.
No, you cannot explore for oil now, and you can't, there's no trawl fishing. I mean, that was already a rule anyway. You couldn't trawl fish in there. You could do fishing in there, but you could use certain mechanism to fish you couldn't use. So yeah, you can't go drill for oil or natural gas right now. If there's any there, which there probably are, and if there is, that'll probably be thrown out. We'll be having rigs in there, but yes, that's what it is.
Did I see something today? It wasn't on EcoRI. Did the Trump administration say they're not going to protect grizzlies in Yellowstone? Did you see that one?
That was earlier this week, yes,
okay.
That they're no longer endangered. So, so Yellowstone grizzlies can be shot and hunted now, but they roll back where you can kill bear cubs and their mother in dens now too. So that was rolled back earlier this year, so in March or something.
So what does this mean for the Atlantic seacoast and having had this monument designation? As we were saying, not many people visit it or sort of know, but are there implications, or is it just sort of the tenor of the Trump administration that the environmental and community is concerned about?
Yeah, I think it's if the biggest thing is if there is oil or gas there now, they can't drill for it. They'd have to change, just like they can't drill for that in Yosemite or Yellowstone or anything. That's the biggest protection. But I think beyond that, it's just that this is the tenor. We're going to look at everything, and we don't need to protect all this stuff, which is mind-numbing. We have enough stuff, enough places to drill and build and all this other stuff. So
no, that's why when you're like, I was not surprised that there was something good. It was actually something.
Just kidding, anyway. But yeah, no, the whole tenor of the administration is it's frightening.
Well, you can read that piece again on EcoRI. And there was one more here I wanted to bring up to see. This is something I wanted to talk about as well. The wind turbine study. And can wind turbines withstand hurricane force winds? Now I want to just read a little snippet of this. A new offshore wind, as new offshore wind farms are built off the Northeast coast, a new report suggests that the current models of wind turbines might not withstand the most powerful hurricanes. Now, Deepwater Wind designs its turbines to withstand a 100-year storm, which has top wind speeds of 134 miles an hour. And back in 1954, Hurricane Carol only reached 110. So are Deepwater Wind turbines going to withstand the strongest of storms?
Well, yeah, I think so. Like any other infrastructure, whether there's solar panels, an oil rig out there, if there's a big enough, if maintenance isn't kept up, or there's a big enough storm, big enough wave, big enough wind, they can knock stuff down. So I don't think the turbines are any different than the other infrastructure that we use to power our society. So yeah, I think so.
They've got insurance too. That was one of the things mentioned in the article.
Yeah,
they anticipate that there could be some extremely
Right.
extenuating
And
circumstances.
weather's changing, the climate's changing, storms are getting stronger and more frequent. So I mean, I think the people that built that are building any structures like infrastructure for energy, that they're taking that into account. Things are getting stronger and bigger and more frequent. So
Well, do you think maybe, as we talk about the offshore ones, and we saw what happened at Salty Brine, do you think maybe some attention needs to be paid for land-based wind turbines?
yeah, I think it needs to be placed whatever you're building, whether it's, like I said, something that's fossil fuels or solar or wind. Yeah, let's build it and maintain it. It didn't seem like the Salty Brine thing was well maintained or well thought out plan, actually.
Well, luckily no one got hurt in that instance, but
Thankfully.
that was
That
one of
that didn't look good.
not one of the brighter moments here in Rhode Island for things to make national news for. Speaking of news, what else can we see maybe coming out of EcoRI moving forward? You've got a
Yep.
fundraiser coming up.
We do? Oh, the July, yeah, at
Flatbread.
Flatbread, yeah, you know more than I do.
I read EcoRI.
I do too, but I'm not involved in the money aspect part of it. Yes, we do. July. I don't even know the date. It's July.
We'll put it, if you're watching
The
this
Tuesday
now,
in
you're
July.
gonna have to tune back in. You're gonna have to come back to Go Local, go online.
We do. It's fun. This is like the third time we're going to do it, or fourth time. It's fun. It's a
So,
fun night.
Portion of the proceeds and all the EcoRI folks are gonna be there, and it's just
Yeah,
gonna
the
be
staff,
fun
the whole
and-
staff of 3 will be there.
The whole king caboodle will be out, but as you know, we've talked about before, you are funded in part by reader donations and these types of fundraising.
Yeah.
So we'll put more information about that up there. I plan on being there. Appreciate your coming in and always bringing some environmental
Oh,
issues to
thank-
light.
I enjoy it. Joanna enjoys it.
Always enjoy talking with the folks at EcoRI. So as we do every Friday, we talk with them here in the Go Local studios at the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center. I'm going to let you